How does a boring, submissive high school chemistry teacher end up becoming the most feared drug lord in all of America? The real answer lies deep within the darkest corners of the human mind. In the mind of every human being, there is a stage, and there is a basement. We all wear a mask to survive. I call this mask the persona. It is the civilized, tamed, and acceptable version of ourselves we present to the world to fit in. For Wallace, his persona is the good man, the obedient family man who does what he is told and swallows his own frustrations daily. But beneath that polite mask lies the basement, a pressure cooker of resentment, wounded pride, and suppressed fury that has been boiling for years. Carl Jung had a name for this dark vault, where we bury our primal instincts, our selfishness, and our most violent anger. I call this dark side the shadow. Most people spend their entire lives running from it, suppressing their fury to remain polite. Walter White receives his terminal cancer diagnosis. The pressure finally breaks the valve. The trauma doesn't create a monster, it just opens the basement door. Enter Heisenberg. This isn't some magical alter ego. Heisenberg is everything Walter always wanted to be, but was simply too terrified to express. You clearly don't know who you're talking to, so let me clue you in. I am not in danger, Skylar. I am the danger. When you repress your shadow for too long, it grows hungry. It waits for a single moment of weakness to completely take the wheel. Releasing the shadow feels like a superpower at first. For Walter, cooking crystal meth gives him something he lacked his entire life: absolute control. I have spent my whole life scared. Frightened of things that could happen, might happen. That was 50 years of just surviving. Every time he puts on the hat, Walter feels alive. The weak, dying teacher disappears, replaced by a ruthless kingpin, demanding absolute respect. But the shadow is untamed. If you do not consciously with your darkness, it will eventually consume your ego completely. You lose yourself. Unlike Batman, who leashes his inner monster with a strict moral code, Walter White hands the keys directly to his darkest demons. Yet, his conscious mind cannot fully accept that he is the villain. To protect his own sanity, Walter begins to construct a massive lie. In psychology, we call this cognitive dissonance. It is the painful mental stress of holding two completely contradictory beliefs at the exact same time. A man committing evil cannot easily view himself as a monster. The conscious mind must invent a noble excuse to justify the unspeakable. Everything that I have done for this family. To protect this family. What I do for us. But reality shows a much darker story. His actions destroy everything he touches. He brings violence, death, and absolute terror right to his doorstep. This is exactly how the shadow manipulates the intellect. Walter uses logic and family duty as a shiny shield to hide his monstrous pride. He repeats the lie so often that he actually starts to believe it. But deep down in the basement, the monster is simply smiling. The tension between the polite lie and a violent reality cannot last forever. When the pressure peaks, the conscious mind finally shatters completely. When you fail to integrate your darkness, it projects itself outward. You do not control the evil anymore. The evil completely controls you. We are done when I say we are done. There is no turning back now. The old Walter is dead and gone forever. Heisenberg is no longer just a brutal tool for survival. The shadow has completely overpowered the ego. The monster is now the master. I did it for me. I liked it. I was good at it. And I was alive. With those honest words, the great lie dies. The painful cognitive dissonance fades. Walter White vanishes into the abyss, and only Heisenberg remains. So, what does this mean for you? You might not be a drug lord, but if you spend years trapped in a job you hate, bowing your head and playing the good guy purely out of fear, You are secretly building your very own psychological pressure cooker. Repressing your true potential and your darkest desires does not make you a saint. It simply turns you into a ticking time bomb. The ultimate tragedy of Walter White isn't just about avoiding a life of crime. It is a terrifying warning about practicing radical honesty. If you refuse to be honest with your own selfish ambitions, your anger, and your hidden emotions today, they will absolutely destroy you tomorrow. A tree's branches can only reach up to heaven if its roots reach deep down into hell. You must stop running from your darkness. So how do you avoid Walter White's tragic fate? You must actively practice what psychologists call shadow work. Shadow work is not about destroying your dark side. It is the delicate art of forging your most dangerous impulses into useful, conscious tools. You must invite the monster to the table. Negotiate with your suppressed anger, your hidden greed, and your forbidden selfish desires.
When properly integrated,
repressed anger doesn't become a violent explosion. Instead, it becomes the firm ability to set unbreakable boundaries in your life. And that forbidden selfishness you feel guilty for having? Once accepted, it transforms into the unstoppable drive you need to finally achieve your goals. You must become a monster, but keep the leash in your own hands. You must install a hard, unbreakable conscious anchor. To truly understand this control, look at another figure in Walter's world, a man who mastered the art of the mask, Gustavo Fring. Does not need to roar or explode. It can be completely silent, ruthlessly efficient, and terrifyingly calm. Gus does not lie to himself. He doesn't pretend to act for his family. He operates purely on cold, integrated ambition and revenge.
I don't believe fear to be an effective motivator. I hide in plain sight, same as you, but we are not the same.
Walter let his shadow consume him, becoming a chaotic slave to his own ego. Gus made his shadow his quiet, obedient servant. But what happens when the mask you wear is completely backwards? Look at Walter's tragic partner, Jesse Pinkman. Walter let his shadow consume him, becoming a chaotic slave to his own ego. Gus made his shadow his quiet, obedient servant. The basement of the mind does not only hold our darkness. Sometimes it holds our buried innocence, our empathy, and our hidden light. Jesse's repressed shadow is actually his morality. Beneath his tough gangster mask lies a deeply broken kid who cries for children and hates violence. This creates a tragic contrast. Walter is a monster hiding behind a good man. Jesse is a good man hiding behind a monster. When a good soul forces itself to commit evil, the psyche collapses entirely. Jesse's descent into trauma is the mirror image of Walter's rise.
But the shadow is not just a personal demon. Once unleashed, it acts like a toxic virus, infecting everyone around it.
When an unintegrated shadow gains absolute power, it manipulates the vulnerable others. It feeds on their weaknesses to sark existence. Walter sees Jesse's desperate need for a father figure, and he weaponizes it. He doesn't just partner with Jesse, he psychologically enslaves him. He uses guilt, shame, and gaslighting. Walter convinces Jesse that he is worthless without him, trapping the young man in a cycle of toxic loyalty. You need me, Jesse. Your entire life is absolutely nothing without my guidance. I am the only one who truly cares about you.
Heisenberg's greatest weapon isn't chemistry. It is his terrifying ability to bend the minds of vulnerable people to serve his expanding, monstrous ego. In every psychological descent, there is a point of no return, a singular moment where the conscious mind stops fighting and fully embraces the darkness.
In that exact moment, Walter makes a dark choice. He decides to step back and let fate take its course, choosing his empire over everything else. When the ego rationalizes murder as a practical, the persona is permanently destroyed, leaving only the psychopathic shadow. Poisoning a child, orchestrating mass assassinations, Walter's actions are longer acts of desperate survival. They become cold, calculated moves on a chessboard. I have spent my life making excuses, but this is just basic chemistry. It is a necessary equation to solve a problem. He builds his empire on a foundation of corpses, completely blind to the fact that his own mind has become a rotting, empty
Heisenberg
tomb.
won. He built his empire, a massive mountain of cash too large to count. But the shadow cannot truly possess anything real.
The ultimate consequence of an unbridled shadow is profound isolation. Walter alienation everyone he ever loved. He is now the richest man in a kingdom of one.
When the ego is completely enslaved by the shadow, human connection becomes impossible. Without love and relationship, the psyche begins to starve in solitude. The original Walter White persona is dead. But Heisenberg cannot survive without a family to protect. He is left with a hollow victory in a cold desert.
Please, put the knife down. I am doing this for us. For this family! Can't you see that?
For a legacy that his family utterly despises. The shadow promises everything, but ultimately, it leaves you with absolutely nothing but ashes. Extreme isolation can be a tomb, but for Walter White, it becomes a final forge. He is left with nothing but his own mind. To truly integrate the shadow, one must first look it in the eye without lying. Only when you accept your capacity for evil are you truly free. The moment of truth arrives on the airwaves. Hearing his former friends disown him triggers a final, conscious shift. He stops hiding from who he is.
I did it for me. I was good at it. And now I have to finish this on my terms.
This is no longer the chaotic ego of Heisenberg. This is the integrated man. He has accepted his monster, and he will use it one last time. He returns not to rebuild his kingdom, but to face the final, terrifying demons he created in the desert. He is ready for his last negotiation.
Walter isn't driven by emotional rage or pride anymore. He is a master chemist and engineer, executing a precise final equation with mathematical certainty.
He enters the compound. These men are the pure, unbridled monsters that Heisenberg's ambition and ego allowed to flourish. He is facing his own creation. The archetypal hero must often descend into hell to face the very demons he created. This is the only path to achieve final psychological balance. Walter unleashes the full, violent fury of Heisenberg one last time, but now it is a controlled tool, a monster serving a final purpose. His primary objective is not revenge, it is redemption. He is saving Jesse Pinkman, his golden shadow, the last remaining spark of his own humanity.
I was good at it. And it was beautiful. It was finally completely me.
Walter White dies not as a defeated teacher, but as the accomplished king of his own dark creation. The shadow didn't just win, it became him. Stop running from your darkness. Look into the cave, face the monster within, and finally, learn to let your shadow serve you.
You don't need a lab or a cape to have a shadow. What is the anger, the jealousy, or the selfish ambition you are hiding right now? If you bury it, it will destroy you. But if you integrate it, your monster becomes the unstoppable drive you need to finally achieve your goals.